What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Quantum, and today we're going to be reviewing the PlayStation 5. Now, I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently than what you've probably seen on the internet, okay? I'm going to be very real with you, very honest, and very upfront. There's no agenda here. I came into this basically as somebody who's never played a PlayStation 5 and had the PlayStation 4 Pro. So you're going to be hearing an honest to God, like, this is just how it is for me, and probably for a lot of people. Now, if you want to hear lip service, now is a good time to check out. I'm not here to tell you Xbox loses. I'm not here to tell you PlayStation is better. I'm not here to kind of sing the anthem that some people are looking for. I can't stress that. A lot of people don't actually want reviews. They just want an echo chamber, and I'm not doing that today. I am, however, going to talk about my experience with PlayStation 5, which is mostly negative, just to get that out of the way if you really wanted to hear that. Okay, so let's just dive into it. Smack like on this video, not wasting any of your time. So when coming from the PlayStation 4 Pro, like for me, the biggest thing was I wanted to make sure my game saves would transfer over. That was a nightmare at first, and I had a lot of difficulty getting all of my stuff over, and I finally figured it out, but it was pretty much trial and error. Now, for some people that have the cloud and that pay, the pay to play kind of concept where, they have subscription service and you buy said subscription service, then you're great. But I don't use their cloud service. I don't use PlayStation Plus because I don't need PlayStation Plus. I'm playing games like Spider-Man and Miles Morales and, like their Uncharted game, I don't, old Ratchet and Clank game, I don't, it's just a storytelling game, right? I do not need their competitive online play for that, right? So to have to need that subscription service in order to do my cloud save, I thought was really, really, really cheesy and really not cool at all, because it's kind of like you could have stopped that. You could have just made it easier for me. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have it in order for it to work, but for example, if you have, let's say for me, in my particular case example, Miles Morales, I did the upgrade from PS4 to PS5. My game save from PS4 no longer worked. The game save doesn't get upgraded too. It sounds like something that is common sense, but it's really not. It should just upgrade with the game, but it doesn't, so I had to start all over from scratch. Fortunately, that was the only game, and after that, I was able to figure out the rest. But it did take a lot of trial and error. Another problem that I had with the PlayStation 5 coming from the PlayStation 4 is that some games just don't recognize. Now, PlayStation 4 doesn't have true backwards compatibility via disc or anything, but I feel like since Sony was offering that, they should have at least buttoned it up, and it wasn't buttoned up. And I mean, really messed up. When I take games like Gran Turismo or Horizon Zero Dawn, for example, and I put them in for the first time, I'm having a playthrough session, no problems at all, the game recognizes. But then, when I turn off my console and come back in an hour or two, or whenever I come back after turning off the console, it says that the game is unsupported. Major deal breaker, something that really is going to piss off a lot of people, because it's something that slows down the process, because now you have to get up, eject the game out, and put it back in. Something that my Xbox Series X doesn't do. Again, to clarify, this isn't a pro Xbox, anti-PlayStation video. This is just things I've noticed from owning both consoles. Now, when we talk about PlayStation, the experience has been nice when I have games like Final Fantasy. My God, that game looks gorgeous. It plays like a movie and a dream. And then I feel like PlayStation is worth it. It's redeeming itself, and then I get into some of my older games like Spider-Man. I played Miles Morales with the PS5 upgrade, so I'm enjoying it. It's just, there's always this little I guess salt in the back of my mind, I overpaid for it because, let's face it, scalpers, right? But then there's also now the added cost that Sony wants to impose with their video games. If you probably read the news at all, that kind of move that Sony always does with greed is making its way back, right? Games now, $70. And I'm sorry, but games that are story driven, there's no benefit, there's no, you're not buying a $70 product, right? No movie is worth $70, and just because it's an interactive movie doesn't now magically make it $70, right? And Sony isn't on that wavelength. Sony believes that they're the best and they can never fail, and they're just cocky. And it's annoying because it's not just the fact that they're charging $70 for their games, it's the fact that they're doing it and people are defending it. And I already know that there's going to be a great amount in the comment section on this exact video, because for whatever reason, people are they like getting taken for a ride. They low-key love being abused and treated like the worst scum of the earth and paying to do it. I don't understand it. But I hear there's a restaurant that lets people get treated like garbage, and it's actually a successful business somehow. Like, you can find a root server somewhere else. But apparently those same people, all Sony gamers, because you're not going to convince me that you aren't glutton for punishment. Because when Sony tells you that the games are supposed to be exclusively for PlayStation 5, and then put a bunch of them on PS4, I think that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be pissed about. Because if you're like me, it takes like 2 seconds to figure out. Sony deliberately told you that it was going to be on PS5 only, and they were making only PlayStation 5 games exclusively, right? So that you buy the PlayStation 5. No sooner than you buy the PlayStation 5 do they come out and say, yeah, we were just joshing you. Actually, we're going to support PS4 as well. So that holds it back. It's not true next-gen games, and everybody's justifying this price increase saying, oh, the games are going to be better. The games are better. The games are not better. I've played them. Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Final Fantasy, Horizon Zero Dawn. Most of the games that I've played are old games that just got patches to use 60 FPS, which, by the way, is something that the PS4 Pro could do. Okay, let's be honest about the situation. The PS4 Pro, grossly underutilized hardware. It was able to use checkerboard rendering to get to 4K. There is no reason with dynamic resolution that the same PlayStation 4 Pro is incapable now of running all of these games at 4K 60. It's a choice not to do it. This could have been a patch for PlayStation 4 Pro owners. They choose not to do that. The only difference that you wouldn't really get is maybe the graphic adjustments for like ray tracing. I understand. The quick load times, I understand. But frame rates, I'm never going to get that because PS4 Pro is absolutely capable of 4K 60. Like, we've seen it. Like, it's a thing. And for me, it really comes to a point of like pure disrespect because now you have Sony just kind of stepping in this role as like, you know, we're going to give you one thing and then we're going to lie and we're going to change our minds down the road. So now, here we sit, and there's still no VRR, and everybody's waiting for it, right? Like, VRR was like the cornerstone of what they promised these consoles around, right? They're saying, like, hey, you're going to have VRR, and we're like, okay, when? And no word from Sony. They did the same thing with people who bought the Sony X900H television. This is a television that was advertised as a gaming TV. Everybody bought into that. Well, no sooner than they bought it, Sony then kind of changed their mind. And it's just kind of like Sony conveniently does that. But you know, there's a word for that in business. It's called false advertising. And Sony has done it time after time again, and they get away with it. And I don't know why Sony has this kind of like, you know, immunity to like literally the laws of like literally e-commerce. They are selling you lies. And I just don't have patience for it in a lot of situations. Now, when we talk about PlayStation 5, it's not to say the whole machine is a lie. Obviously not. They are doing some things right, but there's a lot that they get wrong. And I mean, like, they talk about backwards compatibility, right? But with backwards compatibility, obviously every game isn't supported. And because every game isn't supported, you have weird little glitches and things. Like some games, when you use HDR, will just straight up crash. You have other issues like I was talking about earlier on in the video where, like, literally, like, you're just sitting there and your disc says unsupported when you boot up the console. Like, these are things that slow down the experience that I never experienced on Series X. Now, let's talk about the elephant rhino in the room. Compared to Series X, which one is better? Which one should you get as far as the dollar for the value? That ultimately is a person-to-person decision. Always will be. There is nothing I can say in this review that is going to change a PlayStation owner's mind or an Xbox owner's mind in going either which direction. That's a fact. You've all kind of come here with your own preconceived notions as to what you want. Most of you are just coming here to see if I say something that pisses you off or you disagree with so you can fight with me in the comments. The reality is, when you're talking about these machines, though, and what they do and don't offer, Xbox is offering more because there's a bigger library to pick from. You have every game from Xbox Original, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and now Series X to pick from. PlayStation only has PS4 to draw from, and that limits it. And what's worse, they have such a tiny 4K category that it's just kind of like, and I mean 4K 120 to be specific, category that is laughable. These consoles were sold with like 4K 120 hertz as like the selling feature. Like, this is what we're planning this gen, and now you don't really have that, and it's just kind of like, I beg your pardon? You said that this was a thing. And you can count the 4K 120 hertz games on your hands. I mean, it's ridiculous, probably on your hand. It's pathetic. And now, here's the elephant rhino in the room that also a lot of people are kind of running from and they don't want to address as well. You know, with this whole like conversation of like, Sony has more games, right? When you talk about Xbox versus PlayStation, again, neutral party here. I own both of them. I really don't care. I don't have to pick. I own them both. Just throwing that out there again. This isn't a war. I've already got what I want. Okay? Look, it's like this. Sony is giving you old games right now, just like Xbox is giving you old games with a handful of exclusives. Because I'm sorry, games like Returnal, I feel like that's just like a ripoff of like, I forget. It's the automated. I forget. I don't know. It's the machine girl from the moon that like the shooting game. I'm really bad. I'll probably put a thumbnail somewhere so you can see the game. I don't even know how to pronounce the name because I forgot the name of the game, but that's the game. The gameplay style is a lot like that when you're dodging and running from things. It feels like a ripoff of that. So, it's like automated, whatever. I'm not even going to try. But you guys will get what I'm saying. Now, the part that really bugs me, though, is like, okay, so then there's that. But then you look at what do you have to play? Like every game that people will tell you to play, Ratchet and Clank, the old one, really, the old one. Like I've played that game, okay. And games are getting 4K 60 patches, and then you have things like the old Spider-Man game. I mean, everything that I play right now, Miles Morales, or hell, the new Final Fantasy game or Horizon with their patches, like a lot of the stuff like Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, those are old games. Those aren't new games. And just because they give a PS5 upgrade doesn't mean that it's a new game, right? And that's the problem. A lot of PlayStation guys are like slapping Xbox, they have no games. It's like you can count the actual PS5 made specifically for PS5 games on your hand, right? Like I think Ratchet and Clank and Miles Morales are like the only like really like true PS5 games taking advantage of like SSD capabilities and things like that and like somewhat of the power. Like, come on, like let's be honest about the situation. Okay, so then we look at another aspect of it. I think capturing is great. Like you can get in there and record gameplay footage really fast. That part has always been really cool to me, and I think that is something that Sony does really well. I do find that I like PS4's menu better though. The UI this year is dog shit. And there's no other way to say that. It's clustered, it's crowded, it's a mess. It doesn't make sense like PS4 did, where you just go in there and you find what you're looking for. If I go into my media player, for example, and I want to look at all my screen captures, it's categorized by the game with a thumbnail, very easy. You see it right there. PlayStation kind of has it all in one clusterfuck folder, and you have to dig through it or go over specifically to the specific game, but there's no way to like separate it from like screenshot to video like you could on PlayStation 4. It's just like it's a lot more rooting around and you digging in menus before you actually get what you're looking for out of the PS5. And I think that's the biggest downside to the PlayStation 5. That and the storage. It's just like, I also have a gripe with the controller. A lot of people like it. Maybe this is subjective, maybe it's not, but I don't like the controller. I think the controller is not anywhere near as ergonomic as they had last year on the like they had on the last gen with PS4. PS4's controller just fit in your hand and it felt so damn good while you're playing. PS5, it gives my hands cramps with the way that they try to build it. It's like they tried to make a cross between the PS4 controller and Xbox, and it did not work out right at all because it's not comfortable. It doesn't slide in the hand ergonomically comfortably. The way that they've positioned the triggers and everything, it leads to cramping, and I just don't like their controller design. I just think that they need to redesign that. And then the trigger nonsense, oh my god. It is the biggest, like, why did you even need to do that, like, I've ever seen. Some people like it. I mean, some people also like some other things they shouldn't like, okay? But I think the trigger nonsense is really annoying because when you start squeezing triggers, you, like, literally feel it's harder to do things that don't need to be hard. Like, in Spider-Man Miles Morales, when you're swinging around, every single time you cast a web, you have to have tension on your trigger, and it just feels like your controller's broken, really. It doesn't even feel like a benefit at that point. So I feel like some games just kind of spam the effect, even when on low. When you set the feature to low, I just disabled it altogether because it just added no real benefit. So even though Sony sells that, as a big benefit, it's not. I didn't like it at all. I thought, like, really, like, what are you doing? Not really good. A redeeming game, ironically enough, is the Astrobots. That game is a lot of fun because it's like kind of like they took from Nintendo, if I'm being real, with the kind of gameplay style. It's a lot of fun because it kind of rips off Nintendo. So it's like everything Sony is doing that I like is either old or something that, like, they kind of were inspired by somebody else, or like a lot of the experiences that I'm having on Sony right now aren't really great right now because of the community that Sony has. A lot of people are just defending Sony blindly. Like, they can do no wrong. They've never done anything wrong. We're going to let it go. And you can't do that if you want a product. There's a reason why you don't have VRR and Xbox does. There's a reason why you are paying $70 for first-party games. Meanwhile, Flight Simulator, Forza Horizon 5, What's the other one? Halo Infinite, right? You're getting those games at $59 from Xbox. Those are first-party titles that are next-gen games. And I think, like, legit, like, if you're looking at it objectively, like, that's a really crap deal that you have to pay $70 for games like, I don't know, like Miles Morales. Like, really, it's not a $70 game. It's not. And I think, like, looking at how Sony's going about it, using partners like EA with, like, Madden 21, which is a perfect example of the games just aren't getting better for that price. And I know price keeps coming up a lot, but that's because you're going to pay off this console and then some by the end of this generation if you pay those prices. And it's ridiculous. Some people say that we can't get PS5 anyway, and by the time we do, game prices will go down. You're wrong, because there is a good demographic of person out there that's just kind of like, I'm okay with this. This is okay. The games are getting better. I'll allow it. These are the people that like being taken for a ride. They're glutton for punishment, and these are the kind of people that when the HOA comes through and says, hey, we're going to tack an extra $200 onto your monthly bill because, you know, things just got better for you, they're going to be like, okay. It's that kind of person that's like submissive to everything. And hey, if that's your personality, do your thing, and, you know, be ready to wear tank tops for the rest of your life. You know exactly what I just said to you there. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of like the people who comply the most are the people that kind of get it the worst. And that's just how it is with life, right? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And if you don't like something, speak up. And that's what I'm doing here, because at the end of the day, it's ridiculous, man. The situation, the state of affairs with Sony and their gaming direction is just no longer the power for the player. To be very clear, I loved when they first came out with PlayStation 1 and gaming on that and growing up on that, and PlayStation 2 was like the best console than PlayStation 3, and like I had fun with Sony over the years, and their direction now is so terrible. We should have games like, you know, freaking Heavenly Sword 2, and we don't. You know, like fun things. Now they're too busy pushing Black Lives Matter and politics into your games. And where you were going to escape on your PlayStation, Sony is here to remind you that all lives don't matter until black lives do. Like, that's literally a direct quote from them. Like, at every turn, they're virtue signaling, they're dropping promises, falsely advertising, they're glitchy and buggy as hell right now, and there's so many, like, you have to work it out. Like, as of right now, as somebody who's reviewing this console, you are better off waiting. Don't run out and buy the PlayStation 5 right now, because if you do, you're going to be disappointed, because all you're going to hear are all the fanboys jumping up and down and all the fanatics like, oh my god, it's the greatest thing ever. I'm on PC. I've seen graphics way better than anything Sony has put out right now. Anything better than Series X has put out right now. Anisotropic filtering times 16 on a PC running 1440 upscale to 4K. Try it. Max settings, ultra settings, 1440 60. Guarantee it'll blow your mind. You won't even want to go back to a console again. Now, I know I probably just spoke sacrilege to console players, but I'm like the Avatar. I bring balance to the world. I play everything. I don't care, right? Like I said, this isn't about Xbox or PlayStation. We're not like on like cruise and repping anybody's hood, like, okay? Like, it's video gaming. And let me just throw this out here to kind of close the video off. I'm not here to offend any one campaign, okay? Like, if you like Xbox, play on Xbox. There, problem solved. It makes you happy. It's the best to you. Play that. PlayStation, you like all the stuff they do? Go for that. But for me, I feel like, again, at the end of the day, you can only push the we make story games so much. And again, movies have the best stories ever, and they're not $70. Hollywood box office budgets are way bigger than these video game studios that are coming at it with maybe like, you know, a couple million versus like way into like over 20 million on a budget for a movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, movies have so much more involved in it, and they're not even charging $70. And it's my point is, you're being overcharged, and Sony needs to get it together, especially when their system is not that great right now. And don't get me started on the size, because it's like literally the size of like a small like little PC. It's like really huge for no reason. So I could literally sit here all day and just tell you things that I don't like about it, because there are so little things that I had fun with, because the PS5 right now is just like, it's okay. It's nothing essential, and I wouldn't run out to get it. And that's the final read here at Quantum TV right now. If that changes, I'll update you guys. I'm having fun with my PlayStation 5, but nothing that like justifies the prices that they're asking for, and nothing truly game-changing for me yet. So hopefully they add VRR and fix all that stuff, and, you know, say la vie there. If you made it through this whole video, hope you learned something. Smack a like on it for just being honest. It's so rare these days. People just want to lie and like collect favor and clout, and like I don't care about any of that stuff. So hopefully this finds you guys well. Thank you guys so much for watching the #1 Brand and Honesty. And until next video, I'll see you guys later.